Hey, what's up everyone? It's your boy, Justin, and I'm here to talk to you about what I believe are the 3 best scenes in the DCEU, which is saying something because as much as I want to like the DCEU and I want it to be good, most of it is ungood. Now I want to start this off by clarifying that I understand that art as a whole is subjective. What makes a good scene for me might not make a good scene for you and vice versa. So let me tell you, in my filmmaking and watching experience, what makes a good scene for me. Number 1, it's gotta be memorable. A good scene should stick with me after I'm done watching the movie. I wouldn't be surprised if Kevin Feige has meetings with screenwriters over at Marvel where he asks them specifically what is the most memorable scene in your movie, because every movie in the MCU has one. Iron Man has its I am Iron Man ending, Winter Soldier has its who the hell's Bucky moment, Spider-Man Homecoming has the come on Spider-Man scene, and so on. Some DC movies in the past have gotten this right as well. For example, Superman has its you've got me, who's got you, Superman Returns has the plane scene, The Dark Knight has the interrogation scene, and so on. When a scene is memorable, it signifies a moment in a film where everything coalesces perfectly. The writing, the character work, the acting, the direction, the build-up, the expectation, the payoff, it's all there and it's all working. Number 2, emotion. This might be more of personal preference, but I love when a scene has heart. And it honestly doesn't take a lot to get there. But there are a lot of scenes in the DCEU that lack this heart or try to get away with surface level relationships or interactions and call it a script. If you want me to care about these characters when they're getting into scrapes and the stakes are high, you gotta make me care about them from the get-go. An emotional scene can be a lot of things. It can be contextual, giving backstory to how a character got where they are. It can be conflict-based, the result of their journey, or something in the way that makes their arc seem impossible to finish when the going gets a little too tough. Or it can just be a genuine moment between two characters. I'm a sucker for this kind of stuff, when characters are just sitting down and talking to each other. Guardians of the Galaxy does this really well, and also the Raimi Spider-Man movies do this well, and actually even Justice League does it here and there. A scene with a lot of heart emphasizes a strong understanding of your characters beyond a surface level, and when a writer and director and actors can understand a character better, then so can the audience. 3. Finally, development. A good scene, I'd even say a great scene, happens when a main character in your film undergoes some sort of transformation. A scene that works as a transition stage to display your character in a new light, or with a new perspective on the world around them, or putting them into the next stage of the story, etc. The first example that comes to mind for me is the What's Up Danger scene from Into the Spider-Verse. It's the first time we see Miles in his iconic black suit. There's beautiful build-up with voiceovers from other characters exemplifying his development throughout the film. The music's building perfectly. We get some beautiful poetic cinema with certain shots that mirror moments from the beginning of the film, and it also shows us Miles' new respect for himself, his respect for the Spider-Man legacy, his confidence, and all around shows us that Miles has come into his own. It's an excellent, amazing scene, and debatably the best scene in a superhero movie ever. Other examples of scenes with really great development include the court scene in Batman Begins where Bruce decides not to kill the man who killed his parents, the emotionally charged fight scene between Cap and Iron Man in Civil War after Tony finds out that Bucky was the one that killed Tony's parents, and the scene in Big Hero 6 where Baymax shows Hero old footage of Tadashi's tests in order to convince Hero that he doesn't need to kill Professor Callahan in order to avenge his brother. All of these are excellent scenes that all display development really well. Okay, so with all that in mind, let's talk about the only 3 scenes in the DCEU that I think are memorable, display emotion and heart in a genuine way, and also use that scene's strengths in order to help the character undergo a transformation or enter a different stage in their individual arc. But first, I should probably mention the 3 movies that these scenes are from, which are going to be Suicide Squad, Wonder Woman, and Shazam. So let's get started. What is this? Some kind of Suicide Squad? This one may come as a surprise considering 90% of Suicide Squad is comprised of nonsense action scenes, unfinished plot lines, and half-assed character interactions, but there is one scene that I think works really well, and it's a shame that it happens so early on in the movie because it convinced me that the rest of the film would be worth my time. Whoops. The scene I'm talking about is the scene where we're introduced to Deadshot, also known as Floyd Lawton, played way too well for this movie by Will Smith. Floyd's character introduction, set up entirely in a 3-minute scene, is in my top 3 scenes in the DCEU for the exact reasons that I listed above. First off, it's memorable. The interaction between Ben Affleck's Batman and Will Smith's Deadshot when he's with his daughter is the most accurate version of comic book Batman put put to screen since Batman Begins. There, I said it. Don't fight me on it, because I'll probably just make a video about Batman Begins at some point. The conversation Floyd has with his daughter hits the pause button on the movie so the audience can get some context to the state of their relationship. She knows that he's an assassin. He's been denying it. Him and his wife are separated. He's trying to use the money from his crimes to set up a nice life for his daughter, and this scene actually also paints Batman as a villain that's constantly over Deadshot's shoulder while he's making morally questionable decisions in order to do what's best for his child. All of that information is given to us in 50 seconds. We don't have to spend a ton of time on seeing all of this play out because the acting, writing, and direction in this scene are so damn effective. Then we see Batman show up, and because we're given this new perspective, we're conflicted as the audience. We want to see Batman stop the bad guy, but we also don't want to see Floyd separated from his daughter, and we also don't want to see his daughter watch her dad get beaten up. It took 50 seconds of context of two characters stopping and talking in order for us to care about what happens to them. And obviously this scene is one of many that carry us into the next part of the movie when they're all in prison, so there's clear development here as well. But the true development happens when Batman says, "I don't want to do this in front of your daughter." And Deadshot agrees. He makes a conscious decision to let Batman take him to prison. Now, with so many cooks in the kitchen in a huge movie like Suicide Squad, it's hard for any scene involving him to feel fully fleshed out past this point, because you can't tell the individual character arcs of like a dozen characters in a 2-hour movie, but this scene does it quite nicely and is one of the best scenes in the DCEU, hands down. So let's talk Wonder Woman, huh? So this was the first DCEU movie that I watched since Man of Steel that made me feel good, which is disappointing considering Batman v Superman could have been world's finest, but again, too many cooks in the kitchen. When you gotta make a movie that's a Man of Steel sequel, also stars Batman, also stars Wonder Woman, that introduces Aquaman, Cyborg, The Flash, Lex Luthor, and Doomsday, while also hinting at the Joker and Robin, and setting up Justice League with Steppenwolf and Mother Boxes, as well as taking from stories such as Dark Knight Returns and The Death of Superman, there is not a lot of time left for genuine character moments. But Wonder Woman was a film full of great character moments for at least the first 2 acts. The scene I'm specifically talking about, which you may have already guessed, is the scene where Diana first reveals her uniform and crosses no man's land during World War I. Absolutely iconic. Patty Jenkins and the whole team do something absolutely beautiful here with this scene. It opens up with Diana in the trenches, and a woman tells her that she has no home, no food, that the Germans are taking slaves, and in order to help, Diana's gonna have to cross no man's land. So let's go down the list. Is it memorable? Hell yeah, it's memorable. The work they do with color here, the Linda Carter inspired spinning camera move when she's putting on the tiara, the reveal of her uniform for the first time, the soundtrack and the score, it's all so beautifully crafted that it's one of the things that makes Wonder Woman one of the best movies that DC's ever made. Does it have heart? Yeah, I'd say so. There's some real, honest conversation and conflict between Diana and Steve Trevor here, where he tells her that it's not the mission to cross no man's land, and it's not what they came here to do, to which Diana simply states,
"No, but it's what I'm going to do."
Tears! Oh my god! And with the music building as she deflects bullets from the other side, and how it shows that she's inspiring people like Steve and the others to join in her approach, it's so good! The character development in this scene is also crucial to the plot moving forward. If there were ever a scene in the DCEU that transforms a character pretty much effortlessly, it's this one. Up to this point, the only things Diana knew about quote-unquote man's world was what she'd read about and been told about by other Themyscirans. So, up to this point, she has a level of innocence and inexperience that she naively enters this strange new world with. But this is the first time that she doesn't take Steve's advice, lets herself be true to what she believes in, and fights the good fight that she believes she's destined to fight, which is one of justice and morality and good. She takes matters into her own hands, and after this scene, when she saves the town of Veld, it pushes her and Steve closer together, it makes her more confident in her ability to be a savior, and overall moves the plot forward almost seamlessly. Good scene. Finally, let's talk about Shazam! If you've already watched my way too long review of Shazam that I did with my friend James, then you know what scene I'm going to talk about, but chances are that you probably haven't, so let's get into it. The scene from Shazam that I'm talking about that I would call one of the best 3 scenes in the DCEU is when Billy Batson confronts his birth mother at her apartment door, and we learn the truth about the night that they got separated at a carnival when he was younger. This scene is brilliant on multiple levels and makes it not only memorable for casual moviegoers, but also for fans of the characters, fans of Easter eggs, and fans of filmmaking. David F. Sandberg really seems like a filmmaker for filmmakers, and what I mean by that is that there are a lot of little bits of symbolism and imagery usage in this scene that are stunning. There's a through line in this movie of the number 7, which has always been a popular magical number in fantasy. The villains are the 7 deadly sins, there are 7 thrones in the Rock of Eternity, according to Mr. Mind there are 7 realms, and that continues in a much more subtle way in this scene as you begin to notice things like Billy's mother lives on the 7th floor, as well as her apartment number being 707. It's said according to numerology that the number 7 is associated with seeking the truth, which is exactly what this scene intends to do. So it's no mystery as to why David Sandberg littered this scene with the number 7. Speaking of symbolism, there's also a beautiful use of object imagery with the little compass ball keychain. Before this scene, it symbolized Billy's journey trying to find his way home, but its meaning also changes when we get to this scene. Not only does it now symbolize the deterioration of his relationship with his mother when she doesn't even recognize what it is, but when he hands it over and says,
You might need it more than me.
it marks the end of Billy's old family and cements his position with his new one. Sandberg's use of symbolism and imagery throughout this entire film is great, but in this scene, it's on point. But there are a lot of other things that make this scene memorable as well. It's the first time we see Billy's mother since we were shown Billy's perspective on that day of the carnival, and we get insight into a character relationship which, up to this point, had been teased and we were led to believe might not actually be shown. When we're shown the bit of the carnival again, we get a difference in tone, we get a difference in lighting and color. We're shown his mother Marilyn's perspective on leaving Billy behind. It's memorable because this shift in perspective wakes up not only Billy, but the audience, showing them that the family he was looking for doesn't exist. It's a beautifully done moment of collective disillusionment, which can be hard to pull off. Then, after Billy gets a call from Savannah on Freddy's phone, Billy has a great moment of transformation, which makes this scene very memorable, and I will delve into that in just a minute. But before we do that, let's talk about the emotion in this scene. If you'll notice, all 3 of the scenes that I've chosen take place at least partially within a conversation between 2 people that pause the movie to explore a conflict, solve a problem, and move the film forward, which are 3 things that I believe every scene should do. And I don't think I need to point out to you what the conflict is in this scene, what problem was solved, or how it moved the film forward, because I kind of already did those things. But the emotional resonance is there for me. I really feel like this was a part of Billy's journey that we needed to see, and the performances by both Asher Angel and Caroline Palmer really bring out the best in this script and in this scene as a whole. And also, I'm a sucker for some good music, and this scene did not disappoint. So let's talk transformation, literally. I already touched on Billy's disillusionment and how this scene cements Billy's position with his foster family, but it's more than that. This is the scene where, for the first time, Billy transforming into Shazam has nothing to do with his own ego. Even in the instances earlier on where he ends up saving people, it's either a complete accident or due to something that he caused. Mostly, he uses his powers to escape reality, escape responsibility, or escape Dr. Savannah. But now, he only has one goal, and that's to save his family. And he's not split anymore. He's not pulling himself out of the game, so to speak, in order to look for his mother. He knows where she stands, he knows she doesn't want him, and he knows that there are people who do and who truly love him, people that he's been ignoring up to this point. So when the music builds, Billy leaps, and this happens, that means something. It means a lot. It means that Billy has matured to the point where he knows that his family matters, and that he loves them, and that these are the only people who have really had his best interest at heart for this whole movie, maybe his whole life, and that's going to carry him through the rest of this film. Beautifully done, beautifully shot, well crafted all around, good performances, good poetic parallels, and great music to top it off. It's memorable, it's got heart, and it shows true development. Which is exactly what all three of these scenes do, and which is exactly why I have them on my list for the top 3 scenes in the DCEU. So what are your picks for the 3 best scenes in the DCEU? Tell me in the comments and tell me why. I'm interested to know what makes a scene good for you, so let me know. Until next time, like this video if you liked it, subscribe if you have not done so already, and I will see you all next time. Goodbye.